Cool.
So, in Frankie's, what do you call it, 400Z?
Yeah, 400Z. I like 400Z.
Can you still call it a ZX?
No, I think they just went to Z then. I think after that, yeah, they're just a 350Z, 370Z. Now, there is a 400Z, but obviously a brand new one coming out.
Yeah.
But yeah, 4-litre engine, 400Z. That's what we're going with.
It's cool.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people might not know who Frankie is. I found Frankie by mistake. So Frankie's been drifting for a little while. Those who do know him knows he had a Cefiro with a Barra engine in it. Those that don't know, he's actually a chassis come bodybuilder, I suppose, for lack of a better term, like in your professional trade.
Yeah, panel beater is the term, but yeah, I started out doing a lot of four-wheel drive chassis and things like that. Not a lot of people did them. Kind of in the time, they were very hard to do, and a lot of shops didn't do them at all. So I kind of cut my teeth where I was in Mundaring. Obviously, a lot of four-wheel driving and things like that. So I kind of learned, got thrown in the deep end in my apprenticeship kind of thing. We did pretty big jobs, rollovers, power line tracks just down the road. We were getting cars launched over that. Whole dash outs, whole cab swaps, body swaps, everything. So yeah, kind of from that I kind of learned to obviously get comfortable with cutting up metal and kind of really giving anything a go. It was kind of what it really taught me kind of thing. It's like when I started my apprenticeship, I didn't even know how to change spark plugs in an engine, and by the end of it I'd built SR20s, forged them, and just because
done all the things.
Yeah, it's kind of like I can apply the same theories from panel beating to kind of anything, like even if it's like building something in your house, you know what I mean? It's like plastering up a wall is just like sanding bulk on a car, you know what I mean? So it's the same process, you can apply it, and it's kind of, it gave me the ability to not be scared, I guess, of doing things. So yeah, giving it a crack is basically how I kind of ended up, starting to build drift cars and
all the cool
fabricating, because basically could never afford to pay anyone to do it, so I just kind of had to learn to do it myself, and then just improve my skills from there, and just kept on going. And
here we are in one really, really nice Z. It's unreal. So I found Frankie, one of the drifters had a bit of a bingle and tore the front of his car up pretty bad, and I expected to see that car at the next comp all cut, and some guys do some really horrible tube front ends and that now. They just take the easy route, cut it up, and it just looks like balls. And this guy came back fixed like a factory car, and I really like the factory bay look sort of thing. It's sort of one of the reasons I'm going the way I am with the 32. And I didn't know it, and they said, "Oh no, Frankie did it all. Put on the chassis machine and got straight." I just brought the new 32 project and needed to go on a chassis machine because I want the car really straight. I want it to be like a brand new car. Hit up Frankie, he came and looked at the shell I had and said, "You need to start again, that shell's way gone." Brought the next shell I could find, 32s. I've just brought every 32 that comes on the market pretty much. Sent it to Frankie. He not only straightened out the front a little bit, figured out the strut tower was rotated, fixed that, and he's fixed up the roll cage in it for me. So the car, one of the cars I brought already had a cage in it, which would have been okay for a drift car. It was a bit of a slap together cage, but considering I do logbook inspections, I really wanted my cage to be Mickey Mouse, and I've raced enough Skylines now that I know exactly how I wanted the cage to be in the car. I know how to fix the way they move, so that's how I came across Frankie. So Frankie on the other side, I suppose it leans into your sort of not scared to give anything a go thing. Is that where the idea for your side business came up?
Basically, it was actually a joke kind of between me and my apprentice, which is actually Danny, friend, who was also a drifter. He kind of got me into drifting as well because I'd always kind of wanted to give it a go. But at the time I had a 180, but it was more of a kind of a, I won't say show car, but it was like, it was a real nice one, and I didn't want to smash it up. So it was kind of just the joke around work was like, oh, I dare you to do this kind of thing. I dare you to do this in your car, blah, blah, blah. And then it'd be like, oh, I'm not scared. I'm not scared to do this. And then it just became not scared racing. And then, unfortunately, maybe probably about 5 years ago, something like that, I got diagnosed with cancer, and I had to kind of go through all that. So I didn't drift for a while, and that's kind of what made me go from having street cars into drifting, because I was kind of like, well, I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to give it a shot now, kind of thing. And then probably, I think it was 2018, 2019 is when I think I started Not Scared, and that was because I had to have a pretty major surgery I had to have half my lung taken out, and I was kind of sitting at the computer and just bored out of my brains because I couldn't really do anything, couldn't really move, and I was just like, I'd already kind of touched on laser cutting and CAD drawing and this kind of thing, but I never really had a purpose for it. Like, I'd made a few tools, I'd made a few parts, but nothing like, I had no real reason to learn it kind of thing. So I just kind of started going, oh, well, I'm at the computer, I can't really move very much. I'll just start CAD drawing stuff. And then I ended up stumbling upon, I wanted to do something for the Barra engine because at the same time I was putting it into my Cefiro. It was probably one of the first in Perth, I think, to have a Barra, like a running Barra that wasn't in a Falcon as such, in a drift car kind of thing. There was a few like in patrols, and there was a few in I think there was a Sylvia, 900 horsepower Sylvia that had one in it. But it kind of went from that, and then I was like, well, I wanted something, just an accessory on the top. I wanted a coil cover for it. I tried looking on Google. The only ones I could find was an $1,800 billet one, and I was like, no thanks, because once again, I'm just tight. I'm just tight. I just don't like spending money. So I designed my own, and then it kind of turned into Not Scared Racing and Fabrication, where I started up the online start of it, started up the store and stuff, and then I was kind of like, that was the side hustle, and then I've just been kind of building on top of that, and now I kind of do the fabrication side of it as well. Which now I'm making belt grinders and fabrication things that I actually use myself, and then I kind of think, well, other people can benefit from using these things as well. So and I just kind of enjoy making cool stuff. It's kind of just what I wanted to do, really. Before we're not allowed to have these cars anymore, basically.
Until we kicked out a race track. I had no idea about the cancer scare. So you're all good now? Like you're all...
Yeah, no, I'm alright now. Basically, it's a bit of a tricky one. I was born with it. I was born with a condition that causes it. It's not a secret, but I don't go out and advertise it because I kind of don't want to become the disease, you know what I mean? I kind of want to be Frankie that builds cool cars, not Frankie's the sick kid or whatever, you know what I mean? So, at the moment...
He's a sick kid, but it's okay.
You know what I mean? The cool kind of sick. The cool kind of sick. So, at the moment, I'm pretty stable. Basically, I'll have it forever. Like, I'll never be cured of it kind of thing. They kind of just monitor what's happening, and then if they start to go a little bit funny, then they intervene, but that's pretty much it. So that's why I try and kind of get the most out of every day. And
you're insane. People think I do a lot of and I like do a lot of stuff with cars and tend to be always doing more stuff. Frankie, the stuff he can fabricate in a day when he's on a mission, you'll see when I show you the work on phase 1 of getting this new sports sedan Skyline built. You'll just be like, wow, it's just cool. It's just over. Like, I'm OCD on how I want their car, and Frankie's more OCD than me. But
that's the panel beating side coming in, and I think that's why it works quite well, me panel beating and fabricating, because they really complement each other quite well. It's like when you're panel beating, it's like, your chassis has to be within 2 millimeters of square, otherwise, your electric braking doesn't work, your cruise control doesn't work, you paint a bumper too many times, the adaptive cruise control doesn't work, kind of thing. So like, there's so much technology in cars now that I never thought would get to that stage, and it's like, to be able to understand all that is quite, when you start fabricating stuff, it's kind of almost a little bit simpler in the sense that, like, it doesn't have to be, like, I can kind of get by, like, the panel beating really complements it because it gives me that attention to detail kind of thing, where it's like, there's so many ways you can fabricate something. You can get a door hinge and weld it in an angle and put intercooler on that, and then that's intercooler mounted kind of thing. Or you can go completely the opposite and make a billet bracket that sits there. So there's so many ways to skin a cat kind of thing. And I don't go for the fastest one. I go for what looks good but is also structurally good as well, you know what I mean? So it has to perform. I'm big on that. Being a panel beater, I see these cars get smashed up all the time. That's what really kind of helps when I start building cages and stuff like that, is I really know where to put the force and like put the angles to stop it from basically imploding on itself, because when you see them as a mashed potato on the back of a tow truck, and then you know when they're going to crumble and stuff like that. And plus, I'm more up to date with the technology in the cars as well. Like, this Z is just absolutely bomb proof. This is probably one of the strongest cars I've ever had to fix. Was 370Z. I had to put 2 chassis rails on it, and it was just like trying to drill through this steel. It was like carbon drill bits, like, couldn't do it kind of thing. It was like boron strength drill bits to get through the floor pan.
So you're saying, this is something I learned from Frankie. So this is like, older cars are that little bit lighter just because they're built differently. The steel's completely different, yeah?
Yeah, well basically they're all just 250 MPa mild steel is what they would be, and they just build a structure. They spot weld together. You'd be lucky to have 2 panels in, say, like your 32 over there, maybe 3 panels in the sills and stuff like that. Basically, it's just a box. Whereas this Z here, like the sills are this big by this wide because it was a convertible. So without the roof on it, it has no structure on the top. So they don't change the chassis being a sedan to a convertible to not. They build them all the same. They laser cut different grades of steel. So at the very front of the car, you'll have a weaker section of steel, which then, in the one piece, it's not different pieces. It'll slowly get heat treated down to different grades of steel, and that'll slow you down in the accident. So the front will crumble. The front reinforcement will be absolutely bomb-proof. It'll be like some T7 grade aluminium, 800 MPa, massive thing like the rear that's in the back of this car, and then that stops it from basically cutting the car in half, and then the rest of it is just slowly slowing down the accident until you get to the safety cell, which is the inside of the car where the people sit, and then it's just absolutely bomb-proof. So,
which that sort of leads into, a lot of people ask me about where the future of cages and that go in motorsport and that. So the big rumour at the moment is that the FIA is going to roll out to all their partners, which means the MA, Motorsport Australia, that the cage designs will change soon. We haven't had a design and basic cage structure since 2012, and it's going to go more like road racing in the States. And in America, you're no longer allowed to go through to the strut towers because cars are so modern now. They're designed to do that. Yeah, exactly. And they're designed to repair that as well. Exactly. People don't get that, and that's what I liked about what you did with I think it was James's 180, and like what you did with that. It is easy to fix if you get the right person to do it. Yeah. You can't do it in your backyard, but it can be done relatively. Like, I think you only spent a day on the front of that car? On that one, yeah, it was probably about 6 hours, I think, on the front of that, but I straightened your floor pan and all that kind of jazz as well. Yeah. Pulling it back isn't such a big deal. People get really wrapped up on, like, you know, like if the chassis bends, it's not that actually that hard to pull it back kind of thing. What I think they're trying to avoid is if your strut tower is attached to your cage, you smash the strut tower, you bend the bars inside the cage. Yeah. That is so hard to repair because you've now got to cut there's parts of the cage that you can't not ever get to again unless it's completely free moving. So before you welded the feet in, you know, you have to slide the cage back, you have to slide it forward to be able to weld some of these bars in. So if you damage a part that the cage has to be slid back, it's going to be basically, you're going to have to cut it out and then never have that bar in there again kind of thing. And then it just makes it so much harder to repair. Whereas if the bar, like, nothing is impacting the cage, basically it's supposed to be supplementary. The cage isn't supposed to be hit at all. No. You know what I mean? It's a last case scenario. Yeah. You're in the shit, your car's crumpled down, and now it's touching the cage. You don't want to be using the cage at all, if that makes sense. Yeah, you want the outside structure to bend, and then the cage just stays put, and that's why I think they don't want, you know, the strut tower rule and all that kind of thing, because you can easily chop off a strut tower, you can easily pull it forward, you can put it on a whole front rail section. Yeah. If you soon as you start stitch welding and seam welding and putting tubes everywhere, makes it a lot more difficult, if not impossible, to repair that cage. You might be cutting out the whole thing and doing it again kind of thing, and that causes problems as well. So there's that element to it. It's that forward planning, I think, is yeah, and everything they talk about is for the driver's safety. It's the safety for the driver. It's not for performance for the car. You know, some people talk about a really short chassis. That's when you start going to sports cars, you know, with tube chassis cars.
Exactly, yeah.
And then if you've got cars that are just basically giant battering rams, the other cars in the grid that are built more normal, they don't stand a chance. Especially like, I mean, drifting, rollovers not. I mean, it happens, but it's not so much thing. Side impacts the risk. Because if you get a car that stalls out mid drift on a big entry and the closing speed on the other car, it's no different to like a sports sedan where you've got you know, closing speeds of Porsche Cup car touring cars versus slower cars like the TA1s and TA2s and the skylines and that. So, yeah, it's it's cool, definitely cool. Well, we'll jump out. I'm going to have a look at this car. You can tell us a bit about it.
Yeah, sounds
absolutely rad. All right, so Frankie Z has no engine in it because it's got a super reliable Barra. That's over there. Yeah. No, so the Barra engine that was in the car was Frankie's engine that was in the Cefiro, right?
Yep, that was right.
And that's been in that car for a couple of years, so it's just gone for a freshen up. Juicing at Harris is making it rad again, pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yep, and what turbo on that do you have on it normally?
I went, well, basically for the entire time I was in the Cefiro, it was actually the stock turbo.
Yeah.
So I was making about 370 horsepower at the wheels and then about 750 newton meters, so a lot of torque.
Wow.
Like instant.
That's diesel truck torque.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So it was like that's what I wanted it for, was low down torque. It pretty much was full boost at 1500 RPM or something like that. That eventually blew itself out at a Matsuri because it was 10 years old, kind of thing. So no real loss there. And then I went to a 3584 Pulsar replacement. So that basically used the rear housing from the stock Ford Barra, and it just dropped straight in there. It was like a supercore replacement, and that went to a 4-inch with a billet wheel, and yeah, little bit bigger size. Because my engine was FG, it had the smallest turbo from factory. Compared to like the BAs and BFs, they had a bigger one, and the F6s had a bigger one. So yeah, then it made I think it made about 550 horsepower on gate pressure, which was pretty rad. But then something had gone wrong, and I think it had a whole bunch of problems in the sense like the wastegate was too small for it. So I think it had boost spike issues and stuff like that. So it eventually cracked a ringland in it, but it was still making 470 horsepower with a cracked ringland. So you know, I can't complain too much. It was a 10-year-old engine with 180,000 Ks on it, and it was in a major front end accident too. It got knocked through the firewall and broke the balancer, and I basically put some valve springs in it and some billet gears, and then I just sent it. So
it's going to be all good when it comes back.
Yeah, so it's going to be a brand new, basically stock rebuild, nothing too flash, but it should it still easily do the 500-600 horsepower kind of mark, which should make this move pretty good. Car's about the same weight as the Cefiro. From what I can research on, I'll go weigh it when I get it ready.
Yeah, we can borrow our scales.
Borrow the scales and go on away. But I'm more happy about the placement of the engine now. It's obviously she's pretty far back nowadays, so that's all the FDF angle kit. Super happy with that. I can't recommend them enough.
So where's the angle kit from?
FDF, which is for Lee's Design and Fabrication. They're a Canadian company. They've been around for a few years now, I think, but they're going gangbusters at the moment. You can follow them on YouTube. They do some pretty cool stuff. But yeah, they really specialised in kind of the Z stuff, because I think that's obviously a cheap car in America, cheap car in Canada as well. This is their newest kit, and it's basically, I've never had a kit where you can bolt it on, basically set everything at 0, and it basically looks like it's already wheel aligned. Like I've never had one like just everything fits, everything works, everything just bolts in. No, I didn't have to grind stumps off or do anything, because usually when they say a kit, it's never really a kit. So, but this was actually a kit, everything bolted on. So, and it was pretty reasonably priced as well compared to Wisefab or something like that. So, so far I haven't drifted with it, but at the moment it's pretty damn good. Yeah. So yeah, I'm thinking about getting maybe the rear kit as well for it, just for the drop knuckles and stuff.
Cool. So obviously to fit the big Barra in it, the engine sits right back. You've had to cut the firewall out. Yeah. You've braced that up. You've changed the front chassis members, because obviously this was a crash car that you got.
This is a crash car.
That's what you do.
Basically, this rail here was touching the wheel over there, so and it had snapped basically through here, which is where it's designed to break actually, just before the strut tower. That's kind of what we're talking about. It breaks the rail off, not breaks it off, but kinks the rail there. The stub, all the subframe and everything here was pretty much square. I think these towers were maybe like 4 or 5 mil like across a little bit. So basically I didn't even have to put it on the bench. I just put a porta power on it off the back of it, punched the rails back across, and then just chopped them off. And then all of this I had to refabricate. So the sway bar mounts, this box section, all of these tubes in here, all these gussets, they all had to get made from scratch. But it kind of worked out well, because then I could attach the bash bars a little bit better. Usually there's not much room between the Zs and the front there, so the bash bars are a bit harder, whereas these are kind of designed to do the same thing, slow it down a bit. This whole bit is kind of sacrificial, but it's also at the purpose of, if I unbolt this, the intercooler, oil cooler, power steering cooler, all comes off in one piece. So this is just a big open hole that I can just wheel the engine straight in, basically on like these little caster, like a little tray. I can just slide it straight in on the K-frame.
I thought the whole thing for going for a Barra over something really cool like an RB was that you didn't have to do that.
Oh well, we can't have it all. We can't have it all, mate. We can't got
it. So that obviously means that it's rear radiator.
Yeah, it's rear radiator. So
which is, you've done a really cool setup on that.
Yeah, it is. So we'll
skip past the interior bit, and then these beautiful vents on the side which direct air into. Yeah. You made those.
Little fish gills are cool.
And then probably need to pop the back.
So I'll pop it over here. So we've got a little vent going up here. Basically, I've tried to do it the same as the factory. So I've still got the egg carton thing from the factory because I wanted to keep an eye on the coolant levels and stuff like that.
But you get to see it swish around.
Yeah, I get to see it swish around and stuff like that. So basically it's hooked up the same as if this is an FG radiator, FG fan, and then a Davies Craig water pump in the back here with dash 16 lines running through the inside of the car, or outside of the car.
You got a really cool cutout in the back there.
Yeah, that's the vent for the back there. So I wanted the lights to be on it when at night, that you could shine down on it and see the Z through here, but it's also the vent for getting the air out. That's kind of my only concern at the moment, because I haven't really done a rear radiator setup before, so I think the setup is going to work probably too well in its sense. It'll just be trying to get the air out, I think will be the problem, but I kind of wanted the floor to be like a venturi, like a siphon, to try and pull the air out, and if it's not enough, I'll try and duct it down here or even cut holes in the boot lid to let it out, kind of thing.
Oh, that's really cool.
But yeah,
super nice fab. Everything's really neat. You got some structured jacking points there.
So this was all from the factory floor. So all of this, I'm going to make an electric jack system to lift the car up through here. So I wanted that was kind of in the back of my head. I wanted to do that. So kind of, originally I wanted the batteries to be in here, but it just didn't really work out. I thought it was going to block too much flow.
Yep. Install the stock fuel tank in the...
Yeah, stock fuel tank.
Awesome. See, another thing that gripes me is people replace perfectly good fuel tanks and put all the weight up high and at the back of the car. It's like...
I didn't want that. It's like that's 60, 70 kilos behind your driver's seat, in between the axles. Why would you change that? It's slow as hell. It's baffled.
Nissan's,
you know what I mean? So
they're in the best spot.
And that's kind of like everything in here is between the axles, you know what I mean? Like the radiator is sitting probably the furthest thing past the strut tower, but it's basically on it. The battery's in the middle there. The engine is in the cab. So
no, that's ripper. Well, we'll scoot around the front and we'll go inside and show what I think is some of the coolest stuff. And then Frankie's done some awesome stuff. He's done some killer seat mounts. I don't know if you can see them, but they are unreal. They just pick up the factory points, so the whole lot just drops in. Still got a center console in it, which I really like. So the big tablet dash, the Davies Craig water pump controller, the Defi gauge set for your other little bits and pieces, obligatory handbrake, starting gear, cage with like a pseudo NASCAR bar. It doesn't really come out. It still runs a door card. Take note, people. Door cards are awesome. And then he's got this really cool stuff. So all the panels are removable around the gearbox, around the trans tunnel. He's had to modify the trans tunnel, obviously. And then he's just made these plates. So the Nissan Z, the big Z logo. Like everywhere through the car, there's just rad little touches like that, which I just think is awesome. The structure of the cage is fantastic. ECU over there, all the electrics are almost done. When the engine comes back. Still electric throttle on these?
Yeah, electric throttle,
And so is that an FG throttle?
Yeah, FG throttle.
Yeah.
FG throttle body. People kind of whinge about them a little bit. Really, it's just the software between the electric throttle. I don't really notice it. You can tune it out these days with PCM Tech and all those kind of tuning softwares. They've kind of come a long way. But yeah, still factory ECU. If I wanted to go to a cable, I'd have to go to like a Link or something like that. But it's kind of like, it's a big investment for something that the stock one can do and has been doing for the last 3 years. So they're not a motorsport ECU, of course, but you know, that's just kind of...
It works.
Yeah, it works. Works enough. But there's, a lot of things that probably I didn't realise I'd have to do with the conversion and stuff like that. Is more like I had to cut the windscreen wipers in half because the windscreen wipers went all the way over here and now the engine sits there. So I had to redo all the linkages for the windscreen wipers just on a single one. So
yeah, you can see the welding there,
the brake lines, obviously the brake lines went all the way over here.
And ABS factory.
ABS factory, so I had to redo all the brake lines underneath the car. Just capping off like all these things, putting the Deutsch plugs and stuff like that. That's just nice little things. Running the fuel lines. The fuel lines are on the wrong side of the car, so I've had to swap them and run them across the top here because I didn't want to run them obviously by an exhaust or something like that, so they've had to run along the top. And that's kind of what this bar kind of doubled as well. Like it's a bit of a brace, it's a bit of a strut brace, it's a bit of a conduit running thing. It's a bit of it's a bit of everything. So yeah, that's a master cylinder off a trailer because that's the 3/4 bore. But it's even stuff like that. I've had to notch like the pipe out because I can't make the pedal box go across anymore. I'm not really a huge fan of like aftermarket pedal boxes. I like the factory pedals.
Well, I do. Like I'm a fan. Like so in the white Skyline, I've got the servo replacement by OBX. I like where the pedals sit in that car because maybe it's because of the height I am or whatever. Some people hate them because I think when you go to pedal boxes, my RX-7 had the floor mount pedal box and just the movement was really cack unless you get your feet up really high. Well, that's what I found. But in saying that, in Gold Member, we're going to put the overthrow pedal in.
Well, we can set that wherever we want. So.
Yeah, and because the engine's going through it. But no, that's cool, man. Oh, Cheers, Frankie.
No worries.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
We better get this car in a trailer, and I'm just stoked to be able to show this thing off. I can't wait to see it all, done. Like the things.
Not far away. Once I get the engine back in.
For the tiniest little shit in Lismurdy, this dude makes some absolute gangster stuff.
Yeah.
Just out of control, cool. And even like, man, so this is the
rear brace.
The rear brace. So I don't know if you know on Z's. Just little stuff like that just makes a massive difference. You know, just all little things.
It's even like I'm having a go. This is the flares because the tyres stick out so much. It's kind of like I wanted to have a go at a bit of like sheet metal flare work kind of thing. So that's just a TIG rod welded together. Eventually, I could cut out the fender here, and I'll sheet this in kind of thing and weld it in. More interested in doing it on the back because front wheels because they turn so much. You know what I mean? It's a bit hard to make flares for them, but
that's gonna be
something
cool.
like that just to experiment with.
And for those who don't know, these are the some of the pseudo or templated.
Yeah, these are prototypes. And
prototype
stuff,
valve covers and stuff that Frankie's done for all the different things. So yeah. Anyway, thanks heaps, Frankie. This thing's an absolute weapon.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Massive thanks to everyone helping me out. Shane and the guys at Behind the Sport. Massive encouragement and just all around good times. Damo at DC Autos just does so much work. He has a one-man army and can literally turn his hand to anything. Steve at MSC Turbos New Zealand is doing some awesome stuff with the whole sets. Frankie at Not Scared Fab, he's absolutely killing it on the Skyline build for me. Guys at Hyperdrive, always helping out with advice and bits and pieces. Chris and the team at Shockworks, they're the reason that Skyline's so quick. Just gets the power down unbelievably. Chris at Culture 24/7 hooking me up with the gym. I'm getting a bit stronger and it's helping. And of course Lux Performance for all your good gear.